Journeymen, enhancement talent, ham and eggers, jobbers. At one point in time, they were an absolutely vital part of wrestling programming, even though the term jobber is sometimes seen as derogatory. Jobbers would help turn normal men into superstars while never moving up the cards themselves. The only way was down when you got hired to do the job, but still, we all have our favourite enhancement talent, and also it can be pretty entertaining just watching a guy get destroyed for a few minutes. Sorry, but it's true. Today we'll do things a bit differently and run through an A to Z of jobbers. I wanted to try and highlight some journeymen who don't get brought up all that often, so I want to get a few honourable mentions out of the way first. Brooklyn Brawler, Barry Horowitz, Pork Chop Cash. I really wanted to include Pork Chop due to his name, but he was too successful elsewhere. Tiger Chung Lee, Pete Doherty, Joey Maggs, the Milky Brothers, Iron Mike Sharpe, Special Delivery Jones. These are all great journeymen, with some finding success here and there, and these are also guys I know you would have brought up in the comment section. These are all top tier enhancement talent, but we're going to dig a little deeper today. So let's start with the A to Z. No doubt some of these guys may have found success in other promotions, but the enhancement talent brought up in this video are getting mentioned for their time during a specific era. You may also really like one or two of the guys in this video, I don't know, so don't take it personally if your favourite job guy gets ripped apart. It's all in good fun. Nothing but respect for anyone who steps inside the ropes. A is for Al Phillips. Al's that special kind of jobber who enhanced talent in both the WWF and WCW. He didn't get a single TV win since debuting in 1991, but look, his final match was a victory over Lance Diamond, a match that didn't make it to television. Imagine working from 1991 to 1998 without getting a single victory, and then when you finally get the chance to pin someone, nobody gets to see it. Still, he left the business on top. You're only as good as your last match, so well done, Al Phillips. B is for Barry Hardy. Some say this is the long-lost brother of Matt and Jeff, the original Hardy Boy. When he isn't accusing Carl Baskin of being a murderer, and when he isn't killing innocent taggers, old Barry Hardy could be found laying on his back in the middle of a wrestling ring in both WWF and WCW. He had more luck when moving away from the big time, but everyone from Jim Neidhart to Sparky Plug defeated Barry on TV. A rare specimen indeed, and one of the all-time greats. Should have been WWF champion at least twice. C is for Corey Student. A student of what? I have no idea, but he definitely didn't study the art of winning wrestling matches. A jobber of the WWF new generation, Corey got a grade A in getting his ass kicked by guys like Doink, Yokozuna, Jeff Jarrett and Earthquake. He gave up wrestling in 1995 because of mounting student debt, and he now lives in a zoo where he sleeps with the chimps. D is for Dale Wolf. You probably remember Dale thanks to the trademark dead animal stuck on his head. This is what happens when the mullet starts overtaking the brain. Fail Dale was also known as Dusty Wolf, but he had to change his name when the American Dream Dusty Rhodes came to work for WWF. Dusty Wolf was such a threat to the son of a plumber that he was forced to switch direction, and he chose the hardest, most intimidating name known to man: Dale. Old school fans will remember Mr. Wolf quite well. It's like his shoulders were forever superglued to the mat. E is for Eric Freedom. He chose this name because he thought he would be free from mounting bills and a hefty mortgage when he became a pro wrestler. Turns out you actually need to look like a pro wrestler to get some of that, success. And Eric would actually find some success when he left WWF in 1992. Apparently he's a bit of a backyard wrestling legend, so I'm probably going to piss off about 6 people with his inclusion in this video, but I don't care. He was jobberific when in the WWF, but to his credit, Eric still wrestles to this very day. At the time of writing, he's one half of the UWE Tag Team Champions. He looked incredibly confused back in the early 90s though, like he didn't know where he was supposed to be. F is for Frog. Yes, there's a wrestler named Frog. He made 3 appearances on WCW Worldwide in the year 2000 and he got beaten up in all 3 matches. Before WCW, he was known as Toad, and when he left WCW, he went back to the Toad moniker. Sorry for the bad footage here, but that guy with the green hair is the unmistakable Frog. His finisher wasn't the Frog Splash, by the way. No, it was the Toad Salt. Talk about missed opportunities. G is for the Gambler, one of the more well-known WCW jobbers. The Gambler's gimmick is self-explanatory. He likes to gamble. He's not much of a winner judging by his win-loss record, so if he's as good at gambling as he is at wrestling, then he's probably on the run from the Mafia right now. A gimmick all about gambling's a bit weird though, isn't it? It can be seen as a vice or a weakness. It's like having an alcoholic wrestler or something. No one's stupid enough to do that kind of thing, right? H is for Hamlet Macbeth. WWE developmental wrestler Christopher Gray played the role of Hamlet Macbeth. He had one match on Friday Night SmackDown which took place in London, England, and Hamlet Macbeth was devised to poke fun at the Scottish, even though Christopher was from Leeds and SmackDown was, in London. Chris would spend a year in Florida Championship Wrestling. He never returned to WWE after jobbing out in around 3 minutes, and it looks like he stopped wrestling altogether in 2012. At least he can say he had a match on SmackDown. I is for Ian Weston. Mr. Weston travelled to both WWF and WCW to do the JOB, and he's probably the most unremarkable journeyman in our video today, a literal human toilet break. He got his ass handed to him by Vader in WCW on multiple occasions. He lost to Kevin Sullivan, Cactus Jack, the Honky Tonk Man, Papa Shango. It seems like he wasn't there to enhance talent, rather he was there to get his ass kicked so the boys could get some stress relief. There's certain tiers within the world of jobberdom, and some journeymen are more interesting than others. Ian Weston is not all that interesting. J is for Jerry Fox. Foxes hunt for sport while the sport of wrestling hunts Jerry Fox. This is a man who just couldn't escape from the clutches of defeat. If there was a competition for the WWF's biggest loser, he'd come in second because he's such a big loser. To give Foxy some credit, he did have much more success after leaving WWF. He took on his old USWA name, Rockin' Randy, on the Independents, the exact gimmick name that your out-of-touch uncle would come up with. And hey, Jerry Fox got pinned in a WWF ring in 1992, 1996 and 1997, so he's a generational jobber. Guys who've gotten hard-fought victories over the fantastic Mr. Fox include Bam Bam Bigelow, Razor Ramon, Triple H and Mankind. Without the style and pizzazz of Jerry Fox, who knows what would have happened to these legends of pro wrestling. K is for Ken Ray. Okay, moving on. L is for LA Gore. Not LA Noir, not LA Knight, and definitely not Magnum TA. Although clearly this guy really wanted to be Magnum TA. Here's a legend who looked at himself in the mirror and said, yes, this is what a pro wrestler should look like. He's got the handlebar mustache, he's got the big permed hair, he's got that general Magnum TA look, but the face just puts you off a bit, doesn't it? It's like when you create your favourite wrestler in a WWE game, it just doesn't look right, but you still say, yeah, fuck it, that'll do, and you end up headlining WrestleMania with your deformed Frankenstein creation. Thankfully, LA Gore did not headline WrestleMania. I know, shocker. And here's something quite surprising. The LA doesn't stand for Los Angeles, it actually stands for leaky asshole. This is what LA Gore would suffer from after getting pinned in every single one of his WWF matches. M is for the medic. Yes, a wrestling medic. Now, you can instantly see why this was a good idea. If the medic injures his opponent in the ring, which is highly likely to happen, then he could fix him up in no time at all and the match could resume. The medic could also get prescriptions ordered for the boys so they don't have to go to any back alley doctors to get their performance enhancers, So the medic wasn't just a good gimmick, it was a great gimmick. It's like being an arsonist and a fireman at the same time, or a bent cop. In all seriousness, many wondered who the medic really was. Terry Funk's name crept up a few times, but I don't think so. Dirty Dick Slater was also mentioned as the likely life-saving superstar, and I definitely say he wrestles more like Slater than the Dirty Funker. But who cares, it's a terrible gimmick. It reeks of early 90s WCW, and he didn't win matches either. N is for Nasty Ned. He looks nasty, he probably smells nasty, and his in-ring work was pretty nasty too, and not in a good way. Nasty Ned Brady was a regular enhancement guy in WCW, but here's an interesting fact. Ned came up with the Repo Man gimmick while working in the Florida independent scene. Depending on which story you believe, he either sent a tape of his Repo Man gimmick to the WWF and the WWF stole it for themselves, or Ned's friend called JJ Dillon with the idea and Dillon passed it on to Vince McMahon. Nasty Ned Brady would have to give up the Repo Man gimmick due to the WWF now owning the copyright, and Barry Darsow would end up playing the character. Not only did Nasty Ned job out in the middle of the ring, but he also got jobbed out of his very own gimmick. A sad state of affairs indeed. O is for Oliver John. Oliver John is one of our more recent enhancement guys in this video because WWE ECW just had to have jobbers, didn't they? Also, try finding an enhancement talent that begins with O. It's not easy. So if this guy wasn't named Oliver, then he wouldn't be in today's video. Like our main man Ian Weston, there's nothing much you can say about Oliver John. The only thing remotely noteworthy here is that he wrestled against a debuting Sheamus. He had one match on the revived ECW show that WWE produced, and yeah, that whole project was a joke in itself. Maybe one day I'll cover all of WWE ECW just for a laugh, although I don't think it would be all that funny. Oliver also wrestled in the WWE all the way back in 2004. He jobbed out to Chuck Palumbo on Sunday Night Heat. Oliver wins matches practically everywhere else he goes, but he was brought into WWE to look up at the lights. P is for Peter Weeks. You can only see the back of his head here because WWF didn't want to show his beautiful face. Peter would spend weeks jobbing out in the WWF. His first run happened in mid to late 1991 where he was mostly involved in tag team matches, but he got himself another match on Raw in 1993 where he ended up doing the job to Tatanka. His surname is incredibly apt, seeing as his career consisted of mere weeks in the business. Maybe if he got more matches under his big belt he could have been the next Shawn Michaels, but alas, we shall never know. Peter was fucking horrible in the ring. Q is for Buck Quartermain. Yes, I cheated here, but you try finding an enhancement guy whose first name begins with Q. Quincy jobs a lot, I don't know. Buck Quartermain's been jobbing for a very long time, taking his jobby talents to WWF, WCW, and even TNA. Like many of the journeymen featured in this video, he had much better luck away from the big time, but he had one simple mission when wrestling for the big leagues, and that was to get his ass kicked. An impressive list of names have lined up to wreck the hopes of Bucky Q. Jeff Jarrett, IRS, Bob Backlund, Triple H, Steve Blackman, Hakushi, Kid Cash, AJ Styles. This man just kept coming back for more punishment like a fly attracted to shit. But that just shows you how much the Buckmeister enjoyed pro wrestling. It's not about how much you win, it's all about taking part. Old Fucky Bucky was one of those job guys who just wouldn't leave our TV screens. You can also spell Quartermain without the E on the end if you really want. He doesn't mind. R is for Randy Hogan. I'm sure you've witnessed the sheer brilliance of Randy Hogan before. If imitation's the most sincere form of flattery, then Hulk Hogan must be smiling from ear to ear. This is Hulk Hogan without creative control. Gimmick infringement be damned, brother. Randy Macho Hulk Hogan's catchphrase was, "That actually works really well for me, brother," as he put over every piece of talent who dared to step up. The power of Randy Mania ran wild in WCW. People will likely remember his tenure in the WWF as Scott Colton a bit better, where he lost every single match he was involved in. He jobbed to Jim Duggan, Mr. Perfect, The Ultimate Warrior, Rick Rude, and others. We have 45 matches in total for Mr. Hogan, and he didn't win a single one. S is for Snake Watson, another clone wrestler, but this time our main man ripped off Jake the Snake Roberts. Hilariously, he wrestled as Snake Watson in his very first recorded match. He then went to the WWF where Jake defeated him in under a minute while Watson used his real intimidating name of Dave, and then he slithered away from WWF to once again become Snake Watson. Snake didn't win a single match during his illustrious 3-year career. He had 20 matches before he decided to quit the business altogether, and Snake decided to become a bouncer for a nightclub in Jacksonville. Snake would get involved in an argument with a club goer, things turned physical, and Watson would end up getting stabbed. He died from the stab wounds he sustained during this altercation. T is for Terry Hayes, and Terry Hayes is quite the shadowy figure on the internet because I could only find this one photo of him. Like Randy Hogan, he's another knockoff Hulkster, but here's the thing. With so much little information out there about Terry Hayes, it's very possible that he could be a true wrestling genius, we just don't know. Some folks online seem to think this is actually a young Hulk Hogan, but Hulk never used the name Terry Hayes, and he didn't visit World Class Championship Wrestling either. U is for Terry Ulysses. Yes, I cheated again and used the surname, but it was between Tony and the Ultimate Solution. I thought you guys would appreciate Tony a bit more. Another guy who spent years in New York without picking up a single victory, and also a man who wrestled Terra Ryzing before Hunter got signed to WCW. Tony knew he was going to job each and every night, but he still thought he was the shit. This man posed to the audience during his introduction like he was a god amongst men, and then the bell rings and he stumbles through his matches. I think I like Tony a lot. His matches are filled with unintentional comedy as he puts the big boys over. Do yourself a favour and look up Tony Ulysses when you get a chance. Check out his 5-star classic against Jim Duggan. V is for Van Horn. Yes, Van Horn. Horn with an E. Maybe it's pronounced Van Horne. From 1986 to 1988, our guy did nothing but job out with guys like Randy Savage, Ron Bass, and even Bret Hart getting a piece of the horn. Always good to put on your resume. This poor guy got his little rat tail cut off by Brutus Beefcake, which is maybe his biggest claim to fame. How sad is that? And he also had to get stretchered out of the ring after taking a good old-fashioned kicking from the one-man gang. A fine punching bag for the big lads of the World Wrestling Federation. No idea what Van Vigalo's up to these days, but it looks like he stopped wrestling altogether in 2018. Hope he's doing well, and I hope it didn't take too long for his rat tail to grow back. W is for Walter Slow, and I only included him in this video because of his name. Imagine being a wrestler and your surname Slow. This bad boy had a match against the debuting Mantar, and Slow thought that people would be distracted by Mantar's entrance and they wouldn't notice that his name was actually Walter Slow. He also had a match against Jeff Jarrett on Wrestling Challenge, and the first thing Gorilla Monsoon said when he laid eyes on Walter was, "Nice haircut, Walter, if you're going to the chair." Absolutely relentless. Walt would change his name to Walter fast, and he got out of the WWF as quick as humanly possible. Poor Walter knew there was nowhere to go but down. Some say he now has a career in motorsports. X is for Mr. X. There's been many Mr. X's in the world of pro wrestling, but our guy here pulled off double duty. He was better known as referee Dangerous Danny Davis. Danny was Mr. X and a referee at the same time. His whole gimmick in the late 80s was how he became a referee turned wrestler when he joined Jimmy Hart's stable, but little did fans know that he had actually been a WWF jobber for quite some time before then. Mr. X and fellow job guy Barry O were even featured in the video for Land of a Thousand Dances, so he's a jobber with a little mystery and a little history. A jobber with an interesting backstory, but still a man who took loss after loss when wearing a mask. Mr. X could wrestle though. You could see during his matches that he wasn't your typical enhancement guy, but the results of his matches were always the same. Y is for Yellow Jacket, and Mr. Jacket shares a story very similar to Mr. X. Actually, he shares the exact same story, more or less. Yellow Jacket worked in the USWA as both a wrestler and a referee. He was thrown into the ring with a mask on to hide his true identity, and he would lose every match with a smile on his face. Or maybe he was crying, well, we just don't know. What's more interesting though is that the man under the mask was Kevin Lawler, the not as well known son of Jerry the King Lawler. Kevin also wrestled as Kevin Christian before the Yellow Jacket gimmick came into play, and you can find a few of his matches right now on YouTube. Z or Z is for Zan Panzer. Old Panzer Dragoon right here is actually the son of legendary wrestler Gene Anderson. His real name is Brad. He actually has a legitimate claim to the Anderson name, unlike Ole and Arn, and he wore a pink and black outfit that would make Bret Hart blush. Brad wrestled under his real name in WCW, and he would win matches here and there. He then put on the pink costume and all he did was job. So he put two and two together and he got rid of the Zan Panzer gimmick so he could win matches again. Only he didn't win matches again. He got completely jobbed out during his final days in World Championship Wrestling. Apparently, he legitimately attacked another wrestler in the ring in 2019. The victim pressed charges, so it must have been years of built-up jobber rage that made Mr. Panzer lash out. He also got charged with prescription fraud after using personal details he obtained from clients visiting his hair salon. You couldn't make it up. Before I leave you today, I want to reiterate that enhancement guys and squash matches can make for some great TV. Anyone who steps into the ring should get respect. It's easy for us to criticize when we aren't the ones getting powerbombed by Vader every week. Journeyman matches may have been predictable, but they can also be a lot of fun to watch, and hey, someone had to go out there and make the stars shine even brighter. I know there's guys in this video you were expecting to see, but that means we can always come back to this topic and do it all again. I'd like to cover some jobber matches in detail because some of the stuff I watched while gaining footage for this video made me laugh, cry, squirm, fear for another human being's life. So maybe it's time to put the job guys in the spotlight for a change and have some fun with their squash matches. Anyway, thank you for watching this video, I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please consider leaving me a like and subscribing to the channel, it helps out a lot. Thanks again everyone, and take care.